Hi, everyone, and welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I'm a bereavement specialist. Hi, Susan. Good to see you today.
Hi, Lisa. So good to see you. I'm Susan Capurso, end of life doula and legacy specialist. And today we're talking about sudden death, a sudden loss in your family. And that could be parents, grandparents who we expect that they grow old if they're very old. This is part of life. But tragic losses, things that we just don't expect, that we get a phone call and we're grief stricken. What happened? I just talked to her yesterday.
Sure.
These kind of losses. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And Lisa has a couple of stories to
Mm,
share with you. And, I just want to say one thing before we get started, Lisa. It takes your world away. It's not just overwhelming, but your sense of security, even if it's a cousin, even if it's a friend, because we all have a little bit of fear of the unknown. And when somebody's taken from our lives so quickly and unexpectedly, we just what you know. Go ahead. Let's get
that's the
started
truth.
today. It's
That's the truth.
overwhelming. I've
It is
lost so many.
overwhelming.
So
Yes,
some of our topics hit home a little bit more.
sure,
And we've had a
sure.
few tragic things go on. But let's get going about the sense of loss and security when you get that phone call, Lisa.
Right. So I did get that phone call, but before that, as most of you know, I did lose my mom when I was only two. So I don't know about that. I
Right.
only know what people told me as time went on. But my poor father at 27 lost his wife at 26. And I can't even imagine what that was like. I can't imagine for him, for his life. Um, and he couldn't cope. He actually left for a while, left me with my aunt and uncle. And I don't know. I don't even know how he lived his life. He never talked about it with me. He would never talk about my biological mother. So let me go to that phone call that you mentioned. So I got that phone call. I got that phone call in 1984 on May 23rd from Toronto, Canada, that my father had died of a massive coronary in the hotel room. It was from the hospital, and the person told me to come and get my mom, who was at the hospital there and obviously in shock. So we got that phone call in the middle of the night at like 2 a.m., caught the first plane out from LaGuardia Airport, and my husband and I flew to Toronto to find my mom, who was in shock. And we were all in shock because 2 days ago, I had spoken to my father, and the only indication that maybe something was different for him is that he didn't feel like driving as much as he usually did. He didn't feel like going to Nova Scotia, which he normally would have. He said that he felt a little tired, but there was no other indication that he was sick or that there was a problem or anything like that. And so this was shocking. And yes, the description of rocking your world, it's like the entire world stopped. Everything just stopped. There was
Mhm.
nothing that mattered or anything. Life just came to a screeching halt. Um, and now I had to deal with my mom, who was in shock. I had to deal with funeral arrangements, which I did, eulogy, which I did, calling the relatives, which I did. Um, it was very difficult. She was barely functioning. It was, I can't tell you how incredibly challenging this was. You take a moment in time in your life, and this is one of them for me. This is one of them.
Yeah. And
And
thank
this
goodness
time,
she had you, Lisa, to do this. Some people don't,
I know that.
and they're in that fog and they don't know what to do. And hopefully, there are good people in the world. So you'd like to think that people step up and help you through that
So,
situation.
so this situation has come back again. My friend lost her brother in a scuba diving accident just suddenly, just a horrible accident. And my other friend just lost his father suddenly. And so I think the sudden death is something we all need to look at because there is no preparation. There's no indication that something's going to happen in any way. There's no goodbyes. That's the worst, by the way, that you
Mm.
can't have said, there's no opportunity to have said goodbye or said last words or whatever it was. And you, it is the most incredible, like this whole cloud has now sat down right on your shoulders, and you feel this enormous weight of the world.
That's what it
That's
is.
how it feels. That's
Yeah.
exactly how it feels. Um, so in the
And
time that all
nothing
this,
matters,
nothing
Lisa,
matters. Nothing
right?
matters.
Nothing matters that mattered to you yesterday
That's right.
in life and in the world.
That's
Nothing
right.
matters.
That's right. That's right. And so for my friends and for me, I know how important it was to talk about it so that it became real, because it wasn't even real. It was like I was watching myself going through something. It wasn't even real. And I needed to repeat what happened. I needed to say it to a few people and sort of figure it out and digest it, because it is so sudden. And so when people keep talking about it, it's okay. They're just trying to process it. That's what they're trying to do.
You're right about that. You're right about that. And let them repeat themselves, right? Because that's exactly what they're doing. They're processing the situation and trying to make it become real in their own minds.
That's right.
So they may repeat stories and may
That's right.
repeat, and that's where your patience and love has to come in.
That's right. And in the days that follow, it's so important to celebrate that person's life, to concentrate not on that horrible death and that sudden
Mm.
death, but really say, wow, look at this person's life. That funeral to me represented that. And I went to the funeral of my friend's brother, and she did an incredible job. Incredible job. Everything that he was and who he was, the people who talked about him, that's very comforting. That, is a way of continuing to say, hey, this person was part of us. And even though this happened so quickly, this is what he was in our lives. That is very, very helpful, very therapeutic, and very helpful. And
And
the
that's
time,
what we like to hear, and that's how our intentions are here. But I know for so many people, that's just too difficult. It's too difficult to do anything. And of course, we believe that it should be part of the celebration and the funeral, but it's not easy for everybody to do
no, it's
anything.
not. No, it's not. And then afterwards, you have a situation where not only do you have your own feelings, um, sadness, and of course, whatever relationship you had, and maybe you've gone through all kinds of different things with that person, but now you have a mother or other siblings that now you have to deal with too. And everybody reacts differently, and people shut down, and other people are screaming and crying. And I mean, you have a lot of personalities, and of course the responsibility of wanting to now help that surviving spouse. I mean, certainly my mother, just trying to think of, well, what does she need now, and where's she living, and what is she doing. And obviously I didn't make any big decisions. It's very important, don't make any big decisions for a while, but just being there for her, supporting her, but in the same way also making sure that my own feelings are taken care of. I lost my father, she lost her husband. We both have losses, and it's so important to acknowledge your own feelings and your own needs. you know I'll tell you something. A couple days after his death was Father's Day. And I remember saying, what would Daddy want to do today? You know, and he really loves Special Olympics and stuff. And we talked about buying tickets for it. And I remember going to Hofstra and saying, I want 3 tickets to the Special Olympics at Hofstra, because that's what he would have done. And that to me was honoring him and making sure that we were doing something that he would have done, that we would have done together. And that was me therapeutically. Other people might find other ways of remembering or of doing things that he might have done or he would have wished, or things that memorialize that person,
I
that
feel like
celebrate that
these,
person.
and we're all about that, Lisa,
We
right?
are.
But I
We are.
feel like some of these things will come sooner when you've lost your grandparent and they were 92. When you've lost somebody that's had an illness for the past
Sure.
5 years,
Sure.
and we knew it was going to come to an end, and it was getting closer over the past 7, 8 months. They weren't healing,
Sure.
and the doctors told them otherwise. I think some of those things come sooner, with a tragic loss like we're talking about here today, totally unexpected. I think those things come a little later, and that's okay. It's okay, because really everybody needs to just
Yeah.
take a pause.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Take a pause and do
And,
nothing and
and
be gentle.
yes,
Be
be
gentle with
really kind to yourself, really kind to those around you. Seek support of those people who love you, who care about you, who knew that person. Absolutely. Because it is such an upheaval in your life. You know, you
And
just can't believe it.
you don't feel like you want to communicate. I can attest firsthand. I don't want to talk to anybody about this. You don't want to communicate, but it's really important not to completely withdraw. Yeah, take the time that you need. Take that quiet time. Stay in bed, you know, cry as much as you want, but ultimately remember that having communication, whether it's with friends maybe that weren't close to that person, because sometimes that helps. It's a different viewpoint, that they're thinking outside of the box a little bit, and they're not suffering and mourning like you are and other family members are. But if you don't have that, just keep the communication open with family.
Yeah.
Right, that's really important to do.
Sometimes I will say it's a wake up call. It for some people, it's wow, anything can happen anytime.
Life
And
is
so
short.
why am I waiting for this? Or what am I doing about this? Or why am I unhappy? It is a wake up call for many people. Now, for me and my husband, it was, we've been together 8 years. We don't have any children, and we've been delaying it. I'm over 30, and that didn't mean a lot, but it still was a number. And I said to him, because our anniversary was only a couple days later, I said to my husband, I really would like a child. And that's how I felt. And I gave 6 months notice to my job and said to them, I really would like to work for myself and not work for somebody else. And I knew that they might have thought it was just temporary, but I knew that that's what I wanted. And I did. And I left after hiring a number of people to replace me. So there may be decisions where, hey, you were delaying and you were saying, yeah, I have time, I have this. And then this is, wow, anything can happen any minute in my life. And it just did. So what now?
It's
Sometimes it's a
funny.
readjustment.
Definitely, definitely. But it's funny. I just had this thought in my mind. So my sister-in-law was born rather over, right just outside of London.
Mm.
So she has that British background, but she has family over there still. So she's traveled back and forth to see them, and she has one cousin over there that's her age. She's 60. Okay, always one day we're going to get together. One day she's going to come here. I'm going to come there one day, just not yet.
Yeah.
She suddenly passed away. I believe it was in the grocery store. She just had a heart attack or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
But ever since that happened a couple months ago, I can see the change in her now. And she's booked a trip to go to Ireland to see her aunt.
Yep.
We're booking a trip to go to the Grand Canyon. Um, and she was never a big traveler, but she feels the same way, that if I don't do these things now, this can happen to me tomorrow. And
Yes.
she wants to enjoy herself a little bit more before any of these things can happen. And again, they're unexpected, and they can happen
A
to any one of
lesson
us.
learned for each of us who,
Yeah,
number one, say, well, maybe I'll get to it or maybe tomorrow. Um, sorry, but maybe there isn't a tomorrow,
right.
and that's the reality that I've lived with all my life. I knew that. I was grateful when I lived past the 26 that she was. Okay. I'm grateful that I am where I am now in my life at this age because I've outlived a number of people already. So for me, it was always I need to do things and not just talk about them. I need to make sure that I'm happy, that my life is what I want it to be, and I make it that way. I just make it that way. So other people, it is a wake up call for many people. And it is a horrible wake up call.
Just
Horrible.
reach out, know to reach out, because it can easily turn into depression, and
Sure.
depression can turn into medication,
Sure.
and this is something that can go on for years and years and years.
That's right.
So try
That's
and
right.
reach out. That's the biggest thing. Seek support, whether
Yes.
it's one-on-one counseling or in a group, or just support from other family members or friends.
Yes.
It's so important to be around. Um, and then think nature. When it sounds silly. It sounds silly, but getting out in nature will take you outside of your four walls.
Mhm.
And you can easily fall into a depression when you don't leave the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you
If you
isolate
break
yourself
it
and you're
up,
completely
yeah,
alone. Yeah.
you break it up, you get out in the fresh air. I don't care if it's cold, put a coat on and go for a walk, go to a park, do something that you've never done before. All of these little things will really help you, now and in the long run, I think.
Yes. 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 And continue to do the things that remind you of that person because that really does help you keep that person there with you in
Yeah.
spirit. Um,
Yeah.
there's so many things that you can remember from that person, who that person was, what they enjoyed, what you did with them. There's so many things, and you can bring those things back to you and keep them within you. It makes it, yeah, they're not physically there anymore, but their presence is there with you. Their memories, all that. And by the way, in years after that, I kept remembering what my father said, and it's very comforting to me because he said to me, I don't ever want to suffer. I don't want to be in a long illness. I don't want to be in pain. He said, I want to go fast. And he went exactly the way he asked to go. Hard for us, really hard for us being left behind, but very good for him because he didn't ever suffer. It
Yeah.
happened that fast. So, if you find comfort in that, that's true too. I'm Listen, you
Right.
can't rationalize any of this. This is life. This is life and death. And it's a tough road. Life is a tough road. My mother used to say all the time, life isn't fair, and so you don't look at fair or unfair. You look at being the best and doing the best you can in life and being happy and fulfilling your life in every way you can. And understanding that life is very fragile. You never know what's
I
around the
worked
corner.
I worked with a client a couple clients ago, and she was 90, and we did a legacy book for her family. And her family since bought several more to give them to other family members, and then a couple for grandchildren. Then they forgot about a very good friend of hers, and they got a smaller version for the friend. And but one thing that I did say to them, I said, just you really need to celebrate her, and that's going to be healing for you, because there were five siblings.
Mm,
And what was nice is that they were all close,
wow.
and they grew up in a great loving home with their mom. She raised them on her own, but they were all very close. Not all families have that blessing, right?
Sure.
So the one thing I said is, make even if it's a time every year, because a couple of them live in different states. So set a date each year where we're all going to go to this one's house, and we're going to celebrate mom purposefully, mindfully, and plan it. And so now I had done the last smaller version of the book, and I went to drop it off at the house not too few miles from me. And when I dropped it off, what do you think she said? She said, we took your advice, and next month we're all going to Maine to meet at the brother's house
How
to
wonderful.
celebrate mom, and they'll continue to do that each year.
How
So
wonderful.
that's really
Great
important for
advice.
siblings to do,
Great advice. I
right?
want to recount the story about my father and what happened with this movie. Okay. I said it, I guess, many videos ago, but I want to say it again because it's really interesting um, how to find some meaning to something. So he died, and, suddenly, and it was our anniversary. And of course, we put off our anniversary, did not go. We were supposed to go to Washington, D.C., did not go. The 6 months later, we did go in December, and we saw the beautiful holiday lights and everything lit up, and it was really beautiful then, gorgeous. And so we didn't really have any plans for everything. We just, went to saw the monuments and whatever else. And as we're driving back at some point, we saw this huge bulletin board which said, starring Barbara Streisand, new movie Yentl. Okay. Now I love Barbara Streisand. She's one of my really favorite performers. She's an amazing person. Very talented. And we knew nothing about this movie, had no clue, didn't know what it was about, didn't know anything. But we sought out what movie theaters it was in, and we said, listen, you like Barbara Streisand? We'll go to Barbara Streisand. Went to the movie, and the movie was all about a father and a daughter. That's what the whole movie was about. And her finding her fulfillment. Um, and I stay always. I tell people stay until the end of a movie because you never know what's going to happen at the end. There might be pictures, there might be a dedication. Who knows what will be at the end, right? I stayed to the very end. At the very end of that movie, it said, dedicated to my father and all of our fathers. And I said, this is it. This is it. And I will watch that movie every year on my father's birth, not on his death, but on his birth, to remember him. And I have done that for all these years since 1984. And it's just amazing that that became my anthem to my
Yeah.
father.
Yeah, that's a nice story. That's a nice story. And that's one of the things that you can also remember. So not maybe not the days or the weeks
Yes.
after you lose somebody you love, but thereafter, maybe think of something new that you could start, because when you train your brain to think of doing something new, it will help you ease those the negative feelings that you're carrying around with you. And those things all have to do with self-care, like it's a new exercise, right? Maybe hiking, you've never done that, or journaling even.
Sure.
Maybe start to journal. Do some things that you maybe haven't done before, and that could be a therapy in itself to help. But self-care
Absolutely.
is really, really important. And I've said it in many, many, many videos, and I can't help saying it. But I went to the nail salon because they would give you those back massages on
Yes.
those
Yes.
chairs. And
Yes.
just being touched made me feel really good and comforted and loved unbelievably. I was going a lot
Yeah.
because it was really nice to get that massage. So
Yeah.
self-care is really, really important when you've gone through a tragedy.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes. Yes. So, bottom line, take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. I don't expect yourself to just, okay, this happened and now I'm going back to my regular life. That's just not the way it is. Um, Ask for help, find support. Um, you know,
Books.
I
Please read books.
Please read books.
Books have been my therapy over the years. If you don't want to read them, go on to Audible and start a membership. Listen to books. Listen while you walk. Listen
Yes.
in the car.
Yeah.
There are so many books on this topic
Yeah.
that can bring you some solace.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I want to mention one book because when people lose their parents and have lost both, they feel like an orphan. There's a book called The Orphaned Adult, and it talks about this very topic, about feeling like now you've lost your whole biological link. It's a really good book. So
Thank
as
you.
people lose their
Yeah.
parents, as we all get older and all, that's a very common feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That now you're an orphan. So
And you
yeah,
may need to just start fresh now, find meaning in different things that you didn't before, like I just said, and start from this point moving forward. And it's tough. We're not making
oh yeah,
light of this at
oh yeah,
all. It's
big
tough,
time.
overwhelming, confusing, You'll be angry,
Yes.
annoyed, frustrated.
And maybe guilty about things that weren't
Sure.
said. There's so many things, especially when something happens so suddenly. So just really be kind to yourself, good to yourself, take care of
Yeah.
yourself, and welcome the support of other people who care about you and who
Yeah.
really are there for you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
and you will be okay. You will be okay. I mean, that's difficult for us to even say or for you to think about when you go through something like
Yes.
this.
Yes.
But with time, as we both know,
True.
right, the world gets a little bit lighter and we can go out and, be with friends and do some things that we used to before. It just may change depending on your relationship with this person. It
Yes.
may change a little bit.
Yes.
Life's full of
Absolutely.
changes.
It
We know
is.
that for sure.
That's right. That's it. That's the one thing we all know that life is full of changes. Yeah. So
And Lisa also does consulting sessions
I
with
do.
grief and bereavement. She does them in groups and she does them one-on-one. So always reach out. Our phone numbers are right on top. If you'd like to have any of these sessions or talk to us on a one-on-one basis, and we're always happy to help you and guide you in the right direction.
Yes. And talking about that, I want to mention your healing basket for a reason.
It's a
Because
ball.
sorry, because I gave that to that friend who lost her brother, and she found that the stones and the whole meditation thing was very therapeutic for her. So I would love you to speak about that now.
Thank
It's,
you. Thank you. So I just wanted to offer something comforting to people that are going through a challenging time. And I don't know how this came to be, but it came to fruition pretty quickly. And they're white Long Island stones that I go and I collect on the North Shore of Long Island and bring them home. And they go through certain processes with cleaning and messages that go on them. And I resin them so they're nice and soft to the touch. And there's different phrases on them. So a dozen stones go in each bowl. There's one if you have a friend who's grieving, it's for grief. I have one for pet loss because that was a request from somebody. One if you have a friend with a cancer diagnosis, because that's always a very scary time. So the phrases are very soft and gentle and pertinent to that situation. One for spirituality, and then one for a caregiver, because who cares for the caregiver, right? They need care and love too. So you could find that on healinggardenbowl.com or just my name, susancapurso.com. Same website, and you'll see the bowls on there.
yes. And I also gave that to my friend who is a caregiver now to her husband who had a cancer diagnosis. So it really is something very therapeutic and very helpful, especially when you're trying to figure out what to do to help somebody.
Sometimes you just don't want to send food or
Yeah. Yeah.
flowers. And I was in the flower business for a long time before I do what I do now. So I'm not dishing flowers, that's for sure.
Yes. Yes.
But sometimes you want to just send something that will last a little bit longer. And
Yes.
these will sit on the coffee table for some time to come.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so
Nice.
thank you.
Yes. Sure. Sure.
And in your spare time, Lisa, you are doing
So
the
I've
workshops and consultations and
and two books. And I do want to mention the Lustgarten Foundation walk, Sunday, October 2nd. That walk is at Jones Beach, and I have a table at the Mission Tent selling books. Both books are support books for pancreatic cancer research and eventual cure. And they are interviews with families. The second book about families move on is really about creating our new life after the loss of our loved ones, and we go through the years of how we have felt and what we went through. And it's honestly a really comforting book for people. So all that money, 100% of the money, goes to the Lustgarten Foundation, which is a not-for-profit and which funds completely, no staffing or anything, because it's funded by a corporation. So it's a good organization. So I'm proud of that.
you're trying
And
to
you
come
too.
out to
You know, you've
Jones
got some,
Beach.
yeah, Jones Beach. Yeah,
Oh,
Sunday.
that's okay. I do a legacy book project so we can get your parents or grandparents' memories, stories, and experiences recorded on a 12 by 12 book with pages that can't tear. And it's something that will last for many, many, many generations to come. And all of that you can find on susancapurso.com as well.
Nice.
So
Nice.
thank you, Lisa. This was
Yeah.
some of our
Yeah.
topics are a little harder than
Tough.
others,
Tough
right?
topic. Tough
They
topic.
are, but hopefully in some of the things that we're saying that it will help
Yeah.
just a little bit. And that's what we look to do is help.
That's our goal. And we also welcome any suggestions and topics that people feel that they really want to hear about. Please
Right.
subscribe and also share our
Yeah.
channel.
Just
Yeah.
send us a message.
Yep. Yep. Okay, Susan, until next time.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
we'll see you
much.
next Monday.
Sounds good. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.